YouTube. You can watch it again. No worries. So before we go into the painting part, I'd like to show you my palette. And again, it's not written in stone. You may have a different version, but I just have the primary colors, like the basics. So the red, the orange, yellow. That's warm. The cools are on this side. The green, the turquoise, that sometimes I use as an accent color. I have a cobalt, ultramarine. I have this super cool violet, dark violet, that I always mix to get a darker shade, black and indigo, and of course white. And I usually use lots of white, like have a larger pile of white, because white is good for mixing and getting other colors. So we have our paper towels, we have our brushes. Now let's look at our reference. So I picked this really happy, colorful scenery. Was it Germany? Is it Switzerland? I'm not quite sure, but all these amazing houses there in the background. And you can see we have a background and a foreground. So the foreground is very fun, very colorful. We can paint it in a very expressive way. We have flowers, we have a little suggestion of a river. Don't worry about the details. Again, we're gonna paint large and bold with some suggestion of a background, but we will kind of create, again, depth. That's the whole goal. And we're going to pick a color to cover our canvas very lightly. Lightly, I mean not too light, but a medium value. And I mean, when I say lightly, I mean watery. So it's not thickly painted, but it's a little bit darker. So I'm going to pick, anybody has any idea what color should we pick that background? For the background, how about?
Looks like it should be white. And if we paint the skies, then it won't be white, will it?
Yeah, I know, but we want to create this cool sense of light. So let's pick a yellow. How about that? And we can, you know, that's going to be a nice, interesting background. So I'm just grabbing this yellow, and that will create a really nice, give us nice sense of light. So again, I'm making a puddle, a nice puddle here of yellow. And my yellow is very bright. It's almost like lemon yellow. Some people may have cadmium, which could be a little bit warmer on the orange side, but that's okay. If you can pick any color you want. I mean, you can even pick a little green. See here with the corner of my brush, I'm picking a little green here on this side. And again, it should not be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. Let me make sure it's within the view here. And, you know, just to cover the white, because if you start with a very white canvas, it's hard to determine the values. And again, we're going to go over the values. Values are lights and darks. They could be, you know, values are lighter red, let's say, to darker red, lighter yellow to darker yellow. And when you start mixing them, the values change. So it's very, very important. So here, kind of a lime green, yellow background that I have right now. All right. And while it's still even wet, don't worry. I mean, rinse your brush definitely, because we don't want this brush to dry out. And while the background is still wet, I will start mapping things and see what's where. So take a medium-sized brush. Let's mix a nice, let's grab some of the red. We can just draw with the red color. I have a cooler red and a warmer red. I have two kinds of red. Sometimes for skin tones you need both, but don't worry, in this case it doesn't matter how many reds you have. So I'm just going to very roughly, like, look how much space this part of your painting is gonna take. So it starts somewhere up here, and I'm just mapping how much space it's going to take. So pretty much this much space goes down. Don't worry of being perfectly precise. And I'm looking now at this area. So these are my two main kind of a foreground elements. So it's gonna start somewhere here. See, we're looking at how much space we have from the top, and just very, very roughly, like I'm indicating, okay, this is gonna take this much space. All right, and see, I'm using a really bright red, so don't worry. And it will have, you know, some elements. We're gonna have flowers. Yeah, no need to draw anything other than just mapping the space. So now, next part is, again, eye level, the horizon. The horizon, the eye level is somewhere in the middle in this case. So you can just roughly indicate it right here. I know we avoid having a completely central horizon line, so I'm kind of bringing it down a little bit. And perspective, see how there is this wall that is on the side of the river? It's following a perspective, so make sure your perspective is correct, meaning the farther it gets, this height gets a little bit smaller. So very quickly, I'm just indicating this area right here. That's going to be the wall, and my river, I guess, is going to be here. Okay, so right above that wall, there is some fence, and again, I'm following this perspective. So perspective means all these lines are going to eventually meet at a dot right at the horizon line. Like if we have to mentally continue these lines, they will meet at some point somewhere. So that's why this height gets smaller versus the height over here. So here we go, and very quickly we're going to decide, okay, how much space are, always look at the big shapes. So we're always looking at the big shapes. How much space does all these houses take? They're gonna take this, and look at it as a silhouette, almost as a whole big silhouette. So we're gonna be here, we have one over there, and right here, and actually maybe let me just erase here. We need to see slightly of this rooftop here. I like that part here. So, and I will move probably this house a bit closer. So see, it doesn't matter if we make mistakes, because we're just going to be painting over this. This is just for us to give us ideas of where our elements are. So here is one, this is house one, house two, and the very first one. Okay, so you can just map it, and you can even, you know, map it very roughly. So here, very sketchy. That's going to create a nice painterly painting eventually. So I'm just moving this rooftop. That's going to be the front of this house. So this background, we are not going to paint it very detailed. We won't be too, how can I say it? That won't be the focal point. We will try to have our foreground more of a focal point and kind of lead the eye. They can be a focal point, but more with the detail rather than, you know, color. So because they're far away, they will be grayer and not as bright as our foreground. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so now we indicated where these houses are going to be, so we're going to see a little part of, see, so the houses, remember, they're just like cubes basically. So you have one side facing this way and another side facing that way. Then you have one side again facing this way. I'm moving now to the yellow house, and another side is going to face the other way. And I know it's hard to see from my scrabble, but that's exactly how we start. You just don't worry, and we will now start painting, really. And that's it. That's all you need. Just finding placement and mapping your elements, pretty much. So remember, last time, first we start with the dark values. So we're starting with the dark value. Hopefully you guys ready. Let me know if you're still kind of mapping your drawings.
wiping. Hold on.
Good, we're waiting. Yes, I'm waiting. Good, thank you for telling me. So you're not rushing. Still mapping very, very roughly. And here, you know, you can kind of wipe. Next class, I'd like to show you a different approach. We're gonna start with a dark background. We just really painted with a dark umber color, and we're gonna start pulling from that. So there are different approaches, and this one is the most typical, kind of starting with the color. But in the next class, I'd like to show you the darker from dark to light, so it will be very interesting. So, you know, you can just take your paper towel and even wipe some of these, you know, areas here. That's going to be the front of this house. And so you know what's where.
So are you removing some of the color?
Yeah, I'm basically, see what I removed, like I just wiped the front. See the front of these houses? I'm just kind of indicating how they're going to be and how much space they're going to take. I'm going to, you know, while you guys mapping, I'm still, you know, adding lines. I'm just finalizing it, kind of making it a little bit more clear where it's going to be. So make sure that all this is right. So basically you have two sides. One side is going to be facing front, and the other side is going to be the side of the building, and that's the second side. Although it's pretty flat here, there is no variation in color. We're just going to make it slightly different because, yeah, we're going to play with light and shadow. Okay, so here is this interesting rooftop that has two parts to it, and somehow mine is not quite where it should be, but maybe it should be here rather. Okay, so don't worry if it's not exactly perfect as your reference. Most likely my canvas is just slightly more square than this format, so that's okay. And here you can just have just a suggestion on this side. And yes, you can wipe, you know, with paper towel. If you make a mistake, that's kind of like your eraser, pretty much. You can erase, or just even indicate light and dark with this color. So this wall most likely extends even more. So that's how we have our perspective. So if you guys ready, we're gonna start mixing. We will mix a darker color, and we'll just use this darker color where we see dark, and the shadows are usually here. They're here. There's some shadows over here, definitely in the foreground. There is a shadow here on that wall, and everything else will be just a medium value that we're going to pick. But I will mix now again that purple. Let's get the purple and green together, so we don't have super bright colors. When you mix two colors, you get something a bit more sophisticated. Not too much water. Remember, I just use the water to slightly wet my brush or clean it. That's it. We don't make puddles. Puddle is only for the beginning when we do that underpainting. But right now I'm mixing the purple, the dark purple, and the green, and really very, very rough. See, it looks a bit brown, right? I mean, a little bit black. So if it looks too black, I'm gonna grab some more green, because purple and green really does create a bit of black. So here's my, this is gonna be some shadow. I'm gonna have some shadow over here. No grabbing any water anywhere. We're still using the same color, and don't be afraid to have brush strokes, you know, on your canvas, and little rays, you know, impasto. It's called impasto when the paint is painted thickly. Right now it's all very, very rough. We can lighten it up a little bit, slightly, or warm it up with some orange, and here especially on this side. And we're gonna paint on top of this, but for now I'm just adding this darker green, and we're going to have this same darker green over here. So we're not worried about any details. Just squint your eyes, and whatever you see darker, that darker green, just put it there. See, I'm just dabbing. We'll get to the details at the end, and that's the fun part. Right now we're just establishing the values, really. Normally it is kind of adjusting your brain to see the big picture first, because normally people tend to, you know, go one leaf, one flower, next flower, kind of like we're knitting socks. We're not knitting socks, we're painting one big painting. So we're just using colors, the color, the values, and painting all the big picture. So I know there will be details here, so I'm just very, very roughly, like almost abstract. You start super abstract. Now with the same darkish green, I'm gonna mix some blue, and I'm going to paint that river. I know the river has a highlight, but let's pick a medium color for that river, and let's have some green in it, because we have this green, so we'd like to have green everywhere. So I'm gonna pick blue and green, and I'm gonna quickly just, let's pick some more blue. No water, no puddles, not watercolor again. I remember last time we had that problem, and I'm just making it, it's all flat, don't worry. And you know, acrylic dries so fast that it's probably some of these are already dry, so nothing to worry about. We will pull them, we will paint around them, and you know, and it will be fun. So don't worry. So this is going to be your river color. I'm cleaning my brush, dabbing on the paper so it's not too wet, and we're gonna pick a dark color for this wall. Now we're gonna stay in the family. We don't want to mix too many different colors, so I'm getting again the green, the blue, and let's pick some red. So green, blue, red, so it's gonna be a bit of a purplish. And see how I'm going kind of vertical. We are mapping. We're still mapping now. And it's all shadow. We're going to start picking from that shadow. We're going to pick the medium value, and we're going to pick the light value, and your picture is going to look like a real picture. I know in the beginning it's so frustrating because it looks super abstract. But see, I'm just adding some of this color, whatever color. So the color is, again, I'm dabbing a little bit of white because I want this to be slightly on the gray side. So I mixed blue, green, a little red, a little white, and here I'm just adding some of this. But don't worry, be super bold, because this is all about mapping. And you know, you can take even your paper towel, create some texture. See how I'm wiping this? There is a light area here, you can just wipe it. Just so you know how this is going to be slightly lighter over there. And you can create texture with the water too, while this area is still light. But don't worry, if it's already dry, it's okay. We're just going to paint on top of it. And we will maybe eliminate some of these flowers, maybe just have one bunch. But for now, again, big chunk. Don't put one, you know, pure color like green directly. I'll mix it. I just get a little bit of green, a little bit of orange to warm it up. So yeah, maybe indicate that, yeah, there's some flowers here. But we'll just keep it sketchy over there so we don't have to worry too much. Now the color of the sky could be, again, part of these colors. So I'm gonna take a little bit of cobalt, a little bit of green, and white. So maybe a more gray, a little, that's too blue, that's too blue. Okay, so let's indicate this. So it's kind of going to be a bit gray, and you can have some of the yellow show through, that's okay. Very rough, very rough. You basically paint around these houses. I'm gonna go down a bit. So even if your drawing is not quite perfect, you can always, you know, take out some of it and you can fix it by just painting the negative shape and comparing to what you have. What time do we have? 6:25. Okay. Just want to make sure we have the right. We have a whole hour. We're gonna have a lot of fun with this. All right. And the best part of this painting will be the details, really. But this whole mapping now, it's going to help us to get to the fun part, the details. So now let's mix probably a similar color that I used for the sky. For now, the shadow of this white house right here. So the shadow will be, I know it looks totally white, but we don't use it completely white. So I'm grabbing a bit of yellow, a bit of red, a little bit of blue, so it's almost like a purple, looks like the sky. Looks like the sky. Don't be afraid to mix a bunch of colors. You don't have to, you know, take what you got pure. You just mix a few and you'll see the nice variety that you're gonna get in terms of colors. Oh yeah, I see now there's umbrellas, a bunch of umbrellas. We can always add these. So for now, don't worry about them. I'm just adding this whole color. So this is going to be the shadow of this house. Now the yellow house shadow is gonna probably have some more yellow. So I'm grabbing yellow and blue. Almost getting this greenish tone. And again, I'm just looking at the big picture. I'm not concerned about any of the details that's going to be painted on top. So here is this shadow part. And just see it as abstract forms, like squint your eye and whatever you see, that's what you have to paint. And then the other one is more on the bluish side. So I'm mixing my cobalt, a little bit of white, and I'm just jotting it right here. That's gonna be looking almost like the sky. The sky I'm gonna lighten it up eventually. It looks too dark. So now we're gonna paint the light side of these houses. So the light side, I'll just pop in some yellow. So yellow and white. So we're establishing the values and the colors everywhere. So we kind of stick into this whole palette of green, and then we will have the accent of these red flowers. That's going to be the mega accent. So I'm just here adding this nice yellow. You can pop it a little bit here. Obviously very light here for this house right here. Don't worry if you go outside of the lines and if everything looks really rough, just don't worry at all. Again, we're just mapping it right now. And we can add the umbrellas later. So I'm just going all the way. There is obviously a sidewalk there, so we can mix a little bit of, in that gray, we just mix some red and just roughly indicate that, yeah, there's something there. But it shouldn't be very, the edges shouldn't be very sharp. Remember, this is our background. So a bit of gray and softer edges. So, cleaning my brush, there is now rooftops. Oh, okay, I forgot there is another house on this side. Let's add that. So I'm mixing yellow and kind of getting warmer yellow, like orangey tone. It will have this house here. And we're going to mix the color for these rooftops. They're not super red, so I'm just getting a little bit of red, a little bit of purple, a little bit of blue, red, cobalt. See, I'm making these little areas, and some white. That's going to be a medium value for these rooftops. It's almost pinkish looking. Let's see. So we lay it. Yes, that's a good color. One roof, another roof. Then there is another one a little bit lower here. And a little warmer on the one far away and probably lighter. This way we create the depth, like how they lighten up as they go farther away. So I'm just adding it. Very, very bold. And obviously there's some more here. Okay, so now the lighter side of those rooftops, I'm just adding to this whole mix, I'm adding a little yellow to warm it up. Let's warm it up. And again, very bold, rough shapes. Don't worry if it looks super rough. Again, here is this side, and here is on that side. And then we see a bit of a roof over here. So we're just establishing the color palette of this whole painting. Now the fun part is now these red flowers. Let's map those while we are at it, and we'll start adding a lot of details and maybe use our palette knife for all this. The dark sky that I created is a bit too dark, so I'm gonna add a little bit of white, a little bit of yellow. Maybe this whole turquoise wouldn't. I just popped into my blacks. Okay, make sure you don't mix anything with black unless it's like a tiny little dot somewhere or a little detail, because the black is gonna gray. Your whole picture is gonna get so gray, very chalky looking. So okay, so yellow, white, and if you have turquoise, great. I just need to lighten up that sky. Have you seen a yellow green sky? Sometimes, maybe in certain parts of the day. So I'm just adding a little bit of, and it's okay if you see through. See, if your brush is very dry, you can, it just leaves this interesting dry brush streaks, and it leaves through. You can see what's underneath. So I'm just slightly lightening it up because I needed this lighter value right there, and it's gonna go here, and it's very, very rough, and you can see around. Okay. Okay, now the fun part is the flowers. So let's mix. I'm actually tempted to use my palette knife. Do you all have a palette knife handy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so let's get a smaller one. I have the smaller one, and let's start laying down these super cool flowers. I'm just grabbing straight from the pure color red. I'm not mixing it with anything because now this is going to be our focal point. So see how I'm just putting all these red flower, laying them with my palette knife. And move your palette knife in any direction. See, you can just tap, scrape, create different textures. Again, see it as a very abstract shape. Squint your eye. I'm seeing some red popping in here. I know there's some smaller red over there. We will modify it, refine it, go back to it, and that's what's gonna give our picture a lot of depth. There's some more red over here. We're giving a suggestion. We are not, painting exactly every single petal, but we're just giving a suggestion, an impression of what we see over there. So the knife is going to give nice sharp edges. That's why I went for the knife, because I like those sharp edges for this foreground here. So it's just pure red, and suddenly you see how everything else looks a little bit grayer, which is nice. I like that fact that some are really bright, especially what's in the front, and some are receding. So this way we can focus on what's important. So here there's some maybe smaller knife strokes, and we will definitely go into details little by little. But right now you see how I'm just making a bit of strokes with my knife, smaller strokes. I know now I'm grabbing some darker red. You can now mix a bit of red and a little bit of blue, so you have some variations. So I'm making a little puddle here, not puddle, but whatever color I'm mixing. It's also a slightly darker red, so it's not completely flat. I know it's going over there. Just, this is all fun now with the knife, really. And see how the yellow underpainting shows through. If we had the white canvas, we would have ended up actually painting this area anyway. But this way we're saving ourselves time, and this yellow popping through gives a great sense of light. It's like you're already creating light without even trying. So here I'm just grabbing some more red. Here is a bunch. And again, look at the overall shape. Like, how is the shape? Don't worry too much about the separate details. And if you don't have a knife, you can do this with a brush. But we have the tendency to kind of like work it, and it goes into the canvas and it starts looking too flat. The knife creates nice texture. Definitely creates a very nice texture. So we will, and here how it gets, you're gonna see now, so it gets a very a lot of detail with flowers. Don't worry too much, because we have to paint that water anyway, so we'll go back to the flowers and finalize them. But yes, here's some more. Just have a lot of fun with that palette knife. And while you have that palette knife, let's go on the other side. I know those flowers a little bit more pink, so we can grab some yellow, some white, mix it with this red that we have here. And we're gonna create a bit of a pinker color.
Can I ask a question? Are you pressing it in? Because mine looks like it's kind of smeared more, and maybe you have more paint on your palette than I do.
Depends, like take a generous amount. It shouldn't be little, like as if you're spreading butter on a toast, like on a knife. So basically get your butter on the knife and see how I'm applying it at an angle a little bit, and you can just turn it around. You can be super flat on your canvas too. If you want to show me, I can see what's going on. And make sure you basically create texture. That's what this whole knife is all about. It creates nice texture, nice sharp edges. And at this point and you can even use the tip of it. So let me show you how with the tip you immediately create some pretty nice little details right away. Without using your tiny itty bitty brush, you already have the detail. With just the tip, with a lot of paint, the tip, and you just leave tap, you basically dab it. And it's gonna show. So here is that pink. I'll grab some more color because we don't want to be too flat. So you can always, you know, grab a couple of colors, but don't have it too flat. So a little white, a little red. You don't have to even mix it, just together. See, it just leaves this interesting marks. Almost like an, yeah, it is an impressionistic painting, but it will look very realistic. Trust me, it will. I always have to calm everybody down because the beginnings look very rough. But this is it. This is great. So here we have a bit of a darker color. So again, I'm still using the excuse me, the palette knife. The palette knife. We're grabbing some white, some red, and you just leave a mark. And already you have some bunch of flowers right there. Don't forget, you can paint on top of them. You can just add some more. And feel free to show me what you did last time, if you worked on it some more, if you really finalized it. Don't throw it, because I'm sure you can really work on something. Nothing is completely lost, or even if you make mistakes. So see, I'm adding a little white to kind of lighten this up because I see some petals. I'm already adding a little detail here and there. So just by using different colors with this palette knife. So there's one that's popping up here. Basically, I'm trying to avoid detail as much as possible, and eventually it's just inevitable. That is actually the sweetest part when you start adding. But if you look at my canvas, now this has you know, texture, and it's thick. The paint is already laid very, very thick, and you can see it has, you know, it's like a relief. It's not smooth. It's painterly. You can see all these little brush strokes. So I see here something popping in. We will add all these little details later. But, so now we're done. I'm done with this pink. Actually, yeah, while we're at it, let's go some more over here. I know that there's this little flowers. I'm gonna just slightly dab so we know that there's something. And see how, follow a direction. When I squint my eyes, I see a direction going down. So yeah, even though the flowers are not, you know, vertical, this impression of a direction creates a very interesting feeling to your painting. So yeah, have these little vertical lines on some of these. Now, while we have this palette knife, I see this very nice greenery on the very left. So let's mix some yellow, some of the green. We're gonna make this light lime green color, and you can pop in some white because it's really light. I want to make it nice and yellow, and start creating texture. Just, I know they're gonna go down. I want the background that I'm painting these yellow leaves to be dark, so I missed painting that dark. I'm gonna add some more dark right here because I know there is shadow. So I just added some dark, and I will pop these yellow leaves on top of it. So they go kind of like this, and if your paint is wet like mine, it's okay. We will add the details. We're gonna just keep building it and see how it goes in this particular direction. So just follow the direction. Look at it as an impression of what it is. So I'm getting my yellow, a little bit more green. And we'll add some more stuff. Wait till we start adding lines. That's gonna make it really, really interesting and fun. So I'm just adding these yellow leaves here. Don't be afraid to paint with your palette knife. Forget the brush for now. Hopefully your palette knife is not too big. It creates some really nice sharp edges and very, very nice textural little elements. Okay, so it's going to be a really happy painting. We just want to create this nice happy painting of this little European village in Switzerland. Don't we wish we're there now? Oh, wow. Okay, well, we're in Cary, so Cary is fun. Oh, I don't know where you guys are, but I'm in Cary, so Cary is almost like Switzerland, isn't it? Okay, so here's some more yellow. And now you can create a little bit of line. So see how with the edge of my knife, I grab some lighter color and just move like you're cutting bread basically. Just move it and you're gonna see a bunch of lines popping in. And if you don't see it, it's okay. We're gonna use a smaller brush later and add all these cool details, but I just like to show some line. And here I'm gonna move over here, and it's again this yellow light, because light hits those lines, these stems, these branches. So I'm adding some lines, and it basically shows the direction of the light coming from up top and some light lines. So now we're gonna, while we still have the knife, let's paint the light part. These leaves, we have a lot of leaves here. Let's mix a lighter green for the lighter part of the leaves. And I'm using still the knife. Green, I'm grabbing some green, white, and yellow again. And I'm getting this almost lime green, lighter green color. That's going to be the lighter part of my leaves. And don't worry if they're not exactly in the same position as over there, but squint again your eyes. I see a little cluster here, so don't lose the dark underneath, because there is still a shadow. So you're basically painting on top of that shadow. So here is some the painting with palette knives creates really great painting. So I'm encouraging you to use now the palette knife as much as you can. So just a little lighter green. This way we create levels and variety in our color, and we're gonna keep adding. Here is my lighter green over here, just a little bit. Not too much, don't overdo it. Definitely it's on top, like the source of light is hitting from somewhere above, obviously to the right. So that's why I'm just adding now small dots with my knife here. And again, have a variety of things. They have some lines, scratch it off, take it off, don't worry. And I will move now to the right side. Hopefully you're still preserving your darks here in those brushes, in those bushes there. But let's mix another lighter green for this area on the right. And I see here some just adding a little bit, just so we know the values, and right away we know that they're being hit, you know, with a light, and it's nice and warm, basically warmer green. But before we go into more detail, we're going to move now to the background. We want to paint these houses take care of all this detail so we can add on top. We can go back, so we basically go back and forth, back and forth. We started now with the foreground, we're gonna go back to the back, and then we'll end up again with the foreground to establish again. But before that, I'm just adding some more lighter areas here, and make sure it's not the same green. So yeah, maybe you can get some brighter green here. I definitely see some brighter green popping. Yeah, whatever is in the foreground, whatever is hit by the light could be brighter. Whatever is in the background is going to be grayer and more muted. So very impressionistic. Just an impression for now. And you see how little by little it's going to start looking like something very interesting. So now I'm going to take a smaller brush, and we will paint these houses and add these details right away. So we're just gonna be really sketchy. Let's mix, now I'm looking at it, how about we mix this blue color that's gonna be in the windows. You know, windows usually reflect the light of the sky and the color of the sky, so I'm just gonna grab some blue and paint those windows right away. Just again map them, so I know I have 2 windows right here. Pay attention to your perspective, so they go in this direction. Then you have another bunch of windows over here. Don't worry if you're not completely precise and they're little wiggly swoosh. It's okay, we will add some lines. So I know there is another window here. Maybe another over there. A suggestion here. Okay. And again, have fun with those. So now we're going to add these cool lines on the architecture, and we're going to mix it shouldn't be too dark because again it's far away, so I'm mixing the blue and red. It gives me a bit of a purple. Add some more red, a little bit of white, so it's not so dark or it's not so purple. Okay, so I'm just very sketchy, and I have a small flat brush in a very sketchy way. Pay attention to your perspective. See, the fronts of the houses are going in a certain diagonal and they're all parallel, so all these lines are going to be parallel to each other. This is parallel to that. That is not going to be parallel because it's going on the other side, so this is going down because we're looking from below. Remember, there is a horizon line that we taught, and it's somewhere here, so we're looking from below. It's casting a bit of a shadow. Dab, dab. Now we're looking again for some impression of a texture. There is some shadow cast underneath. Just slide your brush. Again, not too much water. Now we're not even using any water. I'm just mixing colors here. So we have blue, red, a little bit of white. And we're getting this kind of a muted red color, and there's lots of lines. So when I squint my eyes, I really want to give this impression of all these cool lines. I may not have to be exactly perfect with what's over there, but I will really want to give an impression. So paint them quickly. Make sure that make them as straight as you can. If you can, don't worry, but just paint with this flat brush See how they go around every window. Then you have these lines going like that. And then, so definitely a lot of fun with these details. And if you're into very detail oriented, yeah, you can really go and definitely have pay attention to these and make them very, very realistic. So far I'm just making it all an impression. And again, just keep them parallel because they're on the same plane. That is the same plane. So there is some sort of configuration. Don't worry if it's not perfect. Okay, one is going this way. And some more. It's very interesting how they did that. I wonder why they do. It's probably some sort of a structural function. Okay, so here we go. And then it's also on that edge, so I'm using that same color, kind of a dark reddish, bluish, more on the red side. And again, I see another line here. And believe it or not, you can do any of this with a palette knife if you want. But we can also add some more interesting effects later on with the palette knife. For now, I'm just adding these. Looks a little bit more like a grid, too much. And yeah, you can always, you know, kind of break it up a bit to create some interest. So I'm just grabbing my knife and just create on top a bit of a texture. It's not exactly what you see. We are just creating an impression and, you know, adding a little, kind of breaking too many lines. So there's one over here. There's another one over there. And again, this rooftop has lines too. We will get to it. Maybe we can paint this with the knife, with the palette knife. But I'm basically just gonna use the same color. I'm going to use that same color for these lines and use that for all of these. So here's this house. Moving on. There's this area right here. Okay, so make sure that your perspective is correct. I know with buildings it's important. So you have, even if you kind of outline it a little bit to reinforce your perspective, to emphasize the direction, that's okay. We can always tone it down later. I just want to make sure that my houses don't tilt, don't fall. Okay, so the direction is, again, pay attention, it goes down because it's above the horizon, so all these lines are going to go down. And probably unnoticeably will start to straighten as they approach the horizon. But here you can just be very sketchy because these houses are far away supposedly, so we don't want to go too crazy on these. So I'm just making a bit of an impression. Yeah, lines definitely on that edge. Again, another one. Right, so it's just an impression. Again, we're gonna continue with the other house. Feel free to show me what you have and how things are, if you have any questions in the midst of all this. But right now, yes, so just paying attention to this cool stuff that's going on. And notice how my sky is a little green, kind of a greenish lime green. I think it matches the whole atmosphere. I didn't make it too blue. I like that because it keeps it in the family. It's like one color palette everywhere, similar. So I see probably this is going to be even lower. two windows. Yeah, right now it's just a matter of just popping detail. And don't be afraid to kind of improvise at your own versions, a little variation. Here I forgot this rooftop. Yeah, I need to maybe put a little line, and it's like sketches, little sketchy line everywhere. Now here is another one. Okay. So here's more. They have some, there is some interesting, maybe blue. I see some blue stuff. Interesting. Okay. Just very abstract. I'm like looking at almost like an abstract shape. So that cobalt, I like how it really creates a very interesting sense of white. Hopefully you have cobalt. If you don't, you can always add a little dots. But now this cobalt, now we're gonna act like true impressionists. I'm gonna add it somewhere here. Although we don't see it anywhere, I'm gonna add it some here in the shadow of the foreground. Just a little dots. Trust me, nothing specific. I'm just adding, maybe there is some shadow and reflection of light. That's what makes a painting unified. Like, we put the blue in the windows, I'm popping it here, and I felt like I really need to have it somewhere else. It is a very, very nice color. Right, so now, make sure you wash your brushes, so don't let the brushes get too dry. And now we're going to add some texture on those rooftops. Now that we have some flat color, I'm going to mix a slightly lighter tone with my knife. Slightly lighter and a little bit of red. And I know, unfortunately, acrylic dries so fast. There is a slow drying medium. If you want to spend the money, they sell these slow drying medium, and you can just pop in some droplets on it, and it's not gonna dry as fast. But yeah, we can use what we have. So I have this lighter color, and very gently I'm just gonna very flat onto, just slightly drag it to create a little bit of texture onto these rooftops. Hopefully you see what I'm doing. So it's as if really spreading butter on the toast. Very, very flat. It's not at an angle, completely flat. Whatever color I have, and just lightly. So see how it leaves some light texture on top of the main tone. And that gives this idea of the shingles. We don't paint, shingle by shingle, unless we have the time. But we are impressionists. Imagine we're painting this plein air. You can paint this outside, really. It's a perfect way of approaching subject matter. It's very fast. So I'm just picking up some of these light areas on those roofs. I know there's detail going on. You can, add some more lines to create a fun painting. Okay, this definitely has more texture. So a little red, a little white, but very light, and I'll do this here too. And it's just adding some more texture. Now, while we have this knife, we can pop in, some brighter tones. So especially that yellow house, I would just grab a little bit of yellow, and yeah, why not, like, have accent, a little yellow accent on it with a knife, just here and there, pop in some nice accents. I see, even if it's over some of the lines. Imagine that's the light. Yellow is a perfect color for showing light, and I teach this in my watercolor class. I definitely use it in any medium. It's a great color for light. So I'm just popping it on these lighter sides of the houses. It corresponds really nicely. It communicates with the rest, with the other yellows. So if you notice, I try to, if I put yellow here, I put it everywhere. If I put blue here, I'll put it everywhere. So here is some more. Let's pop in some right there. Maybe here on that window, only edges. Just paint some edges. Now you can get some more detail. Okay, here maybe some more yellow. It does show really the light side of the house very well. Okay. And maybe some here on the roof top. And then you can always, you know, if you put it too roughly, you can always take a brush without any water on it and soften it, blend a little bit. See how I'm just going on the edges and have a little bit of blending going on, which is kind of hard with acrylic, but we're trying. And it looks good, yeah. So now I'm gonna pop in maybe some white. I do need some light in this picture. So again, with the knife, just popping a little bit of lighter white right here. Let me show you. Okay, so it's right here. I know we put lines, but you can always sort of make some of these slightly lighter. And you can, you know, if you lost some of the lines, you can always add. Everything is back and forth. It's not like we paint one area and we forget about it. We paint one area, we go to another, then we go back to the previous area, because things do change, really. It is a constant moving and changing. So here, I want to really show some more light over here. And then obviously these umbrellas may be a nice accent. So I'm just gonna sketch them very roughly. They're going to be a little yellow again and more white, and just very, very roughly. I will just put one umbrella over here. Yeah, my drawing is a little off, but let's pop in this umbrella right here. Yeah, we don't want to end up with too much detail again, just a suggestion. So obviously here. And again, add some more detail to this umbrella. Yeah, I hardly use any black or even indigo in this picture because it's so light that it doesn't need any of these darker colors. Just a suggestion. Just adding some more dark here in these houses. When I was doing the texture, I lost some of it, so I'm just adding a little bit again. I want to make sure that this area here stays dark because I do see it as being dark, so it's going to create some more shadow. So the shadow is a little on the purple side. Okay. Okay, so, oh yeah, the windows have these white little lines. So once we're done with that, we will move to our flowers. Let's see how we're doing. 7:09. Wow, time flew. All right, so let's quickly do this. Just very, very quickly, almost sketchy. And now we're ready to move to the water. And the water, we can just grab a bigger brush and just add some lighter value for the lighter part. And I will add a little bit of yellow, a little bit of blue, and white for this lighter area. And again, create texture by dry brush it. Just dry brush it. You can even do a little bit of spatter. So with that same color, it's almost like the color of the sky is what I'm using. So I try to keep it in that family. Not introducing any more colors. Okay, so if you want to do a spatter, just make sure you have water. So it leaves these cool spattering textures. And now quickly indicate here there is some wider area, and on the very top there's a wider area. Okay, and now with a thinner brush I want to paint this fence quickly. If you're not nowhere even near where I am, that's okay, because you can always finish it, but you can see the process. You basically see how now we made the big shapes, and now we're just going into the more details. So try, when you see a straight line, especially if it's a building or a man-made object like fences and things like that, try to have your lines as straight as you can, really, because that's going to be very convincing. So then, hope I'm not popping in my head in the video. Okay, so here, very boldly, we were just gonna indicate these lines. I said yes, straight, and they don't look very straight. So I'm gonna redo. Okay, here we go, and those lines will be straight. Really straight, and they're gonna get smaller and smaller, the distance between them, so because it's perspective. Okay, don't worry if it's not completely perfect. So we did that. Maybe it's some indication of some green here in those little flowers behind, but don't worry about them so much because they're far away anyway, so the details don't have to be very obvious. Just want to show some more dark over here on that umbrella, so I'm popping slightly darker color because that umbrella is nice to come in. So now you can actually, how are we doing with the time? Oh, we do have time, so it's 7:13. Okay, so we have 10 minutes, and in 10 minutes we can do wonders. So I'm gonna we're gonna go into details now with our foreground, because this foreground is super important and it's going to lead the eye into all of it. So just grab a smaller brush. Let's tackle these nice stems, these lines. So white and yellow, and here's some two, there's one coming in, another one going in this direction. Now you can, use brush and be a little bit more careful with those shapes. But still, it is an impression, so don't worry if it's not completely exactly the shape. Is the direction, it's the location. There's a little one coming, one line. That's not quite the brush I needed for the lines. It needs something with a point. So here we have one with a point. So again, yellow, and white, and we have some really nice lines here. So this is what I wanted to paint the houses first, so I can just make these really nice foreground stamps over here, popping in branches. There's one coming out. One is going down. Make sure that these are painted thinly, because as you can see, they are thin. Like if you have to compare the size of them, yeah, they're not too big. They are refined. So again, always remember the rule: thick, thin. You have to have all of it. Rough, smooth, refined, rough, bright, muted. You have to have contrast in every aspect of your painting. Here we have some of these lines over here. Here we're gonna pop in some color over here. I think some light that I lost, so I'm just gonna add. And you see how I'm just dabbing. These are this nice trees and leaves. So I'm just adding, and the more you add, the better it's going to look. And we just keep adding details here. Maybe with the brush you can add, or you can pick again the knife and add some more of these cool leaves right here. I'm just gonna grab very thick, lots of paint, like super thick, and I really want these to stand out. So either a knife or a brush with lots of paint. And as you can see, when you squint your eye, there's light coming through this. So I'm just grabbing some white and yellow and just popping in some little light dots here and there. This is the light shining in between. Alright, and again, it is when you stay like farther away, if you move farther away, it's gonna look better and better, because now we are just adding highlights basically in our greenery here, and that will really make it pop. So don't be afraid to paint thick and add some highlight that is, see, just maybe little dots, something is coming out. May not be exactly like we see it, but that's okay. I know there is some cooler, basically cooler green. I'm just adding a cooler green, maybe mix some cooler blue here. But this whole yellow underpainting should be showing through still, and it should create some very, very nice variations of tone and value. I feel like I'm missing something really light, so again, probably it's going to be again this umbrella here. I'm just straight out of the tube, this white. I'm just grabbing it very thickly. It's super thick, and I'm just painting the light side of the umbrellas, so it have some anchor there of light, and underneath maybe paint a different color. You can, if you lose some of the detail, you can always go back. But be more impressionistic, my advice. All right, so now let's focus a bit on the flowers, and yeah, in 5 more minutes. And feel free to show me what you have. I'm sure you're having some nice paintings there, especially since we're using a lot of knives this time. But the knife definitely adds so much texture and fun. So I'm taking really a lot of paint. See, I'm just grab with a knife lots of paint and white, like red and white, not even mixing it. And here I'm just gonna pop all these interesting, and believe me, it's sticking out like 1/4 of an inch, like 1/8 of an inch is sticking out. This is how thick it is. And here you can just add some of these very nice little details, and don't hesitate to add them to an area where they're not even there in the picture. But why not here? We can just add some more, definitely some highlights basically. So very thick. And this is the same approach if you decide to paint a garden, for example, where there's lots of flowers. There's again values, dark, medium, and light, and a highlight. So the highlight could be pure white or just white mixed with yellow, and just grab it and pop some dots, and it's going to look really cool. Even if you painted this on a bigger canvas, it's gonna look even better. I always feel that bigger sizes allow for more gesture in a way, and really go kind of very expressive. But little by little we're gonna increase the size, so we are not too scared. Sometimes too big may look a bit intimidating. So adding this nice thick paint because I really want this to stand out and separate. So I'm just grabbing a bit of red because there's red here but not too much. Here's more too pink, so I'm just gonna add a little bit of red so they kind of, you know, communicate. There's always colors communicating with each other in every painting. I can even pop it here on that. It is reflecting definitely in the water too, so eventually, you know, I can just pop it in the water. Don't be afraid, you know, to just have some of this color. And on this side, yeah, you can have some more highlights. I'm just grabbing some more white. Probably, you know, some here sticking out, smaller. So again, scale. Some elements are bigger, some could be very, very small and tiny. So that helps also. Here we should have some more light, so I'm just adding a little bit of light. And again, when I look at my canvas from the side, it's super thick. I mean, not super thick, but I have some elements that are really sticking out, and that creates a lot of fun thing. So as you notice, I didn't paint, you know, separate petals. It was again an impression, and it does look very, very convincing. Some more reds. And yeah, and you can just pop it everywhere. Yeah, so, oh, maybe there is a little highlight here. That way the whole painting starts to sing together. It's a symphony. It is a symphony we're creating, really. It's not paint by numbers. It's a sense of balance. We know that here we have all the brightest colors on this side. But those brights should appear a little bit on the other side too, as well. So popping it in this direction. Maybe something is sticking out. And again, we can be a little bit more detailed, but for the hour and a half, I think that is that is a fun exercise. And again, just very subtle. Now, if we use this super bright, these are called the finishing touches in a painting, and that's what makes a painting from good to great. How do we take it from good to great? So we take a bit of this very bright tone and add a finishing touch, like super bright. Why don't we just make a little zing, you know, of red here, a little zing of red over there, a little zing on that. See how this fence creates some interesting, and it makes it livelier, like it's really, really full of life, because all these colors start to vibrate together, and it is a whole different situation compared to what the photo looks like. It's slightly more fun, and you know, you can definitely use your knife and create some more flower shapes here. But yeah, as long as you have the dark, see how we have this shadow right there, and if you lost it, you know, get some of this purple that's already drying on my palette. So get some of this purple, some of this red, and create some contrast if you lost it. So here I'm just gonna pop in some of this dark right there to emphasize that there is a shadow right here. We can use some green. Maybe there is some green. Yeah, and just keep building it. The best part about acrylic is you can't go wrong. You can paint on top of this again. You can just use a thin glaze after it's all dry. But let me see what you guys have, because I'll be very, very interested to see what's happening. Don't be afraid to show it. I'm sure it's good.
It's definitely different.
Yes, it's different.
It's better than last week's, but...
Oh, okay. Oh, you wait till you see the... Wow, good job, Linda. See, it's so much fun. It makes it so much... There we go. Oh, wow. That is... So that... Jill, that size is bigger, so it's gonna, yeah, you just go crazy with your painting with a bigger brush and keep adding. But I love the darker elements, and as we mentioned, just take your knife and just start mapping it more and more. But looking good, I love the value.
I did realize that I probably wasn't making things large enough because of my, you know, I had larger canvas. So I'll keep, you know, working away with it. I need to add my details.
Yeah, just add some more details, and then take the knife and just have these expressive kind of a free-flowing strokes, and you're going to see how nice it's going to look. But I know you're just building it right now. You're in the process, but you have the value, so that's important.
So now I'm covered with paint. How's the best way to get this off paint?
Oh, this is just water. Water,
Okay.
scrub it with something like a spongy, you know, that we use for dishwashing. But yeah, it dries quickly. Make sure you wash your brushes. Very, very important. And I hope you guys had a lot of fun with this.
Yes.
The video is still recording, so you'll be able to see it on YouTube when
Thank you.
I have it all settled. But see, adding the finishing touches is the key, as I mentioned, to a cool painting. Excuse me. My voice. Okay, so again, here, a little touch. It's not what you would expect, but yeah, it's an impressionistic painting. You'll see, your third one is going to be even better, and your fourth one will be unbelievable. Just keep adding. If you still, you know, if you still have way to go, don't leave your painting. I'd like you to continue and get it to a point where you can say, that is awesome. And you're happy.
She's so optimistic.
Because
It's going to be better.
it will, trust me. I've seen it again and again and again. I've seen people, the range, they start here in session 1 and session 4 is a completely different universe. Like, wow. All right.
Anyone have any last questions for Lucy before I bid thee farewell?
What's your thought for next week?
Wow. So we have Andrea. Very nice, Andrea. I know you painted these nice flowers. Make sure you break them up a little bit. They look very orderly. If you want to just break them up a bit and just make some big brush, blobs to kind of make groups, a little group here, a little group there. So for next week, what do you guys, I need to just ask you, what do you want to paint? We can either paint a forest, which is easier.
I was just going to say a forest would be great.
Forest will be nice with some light coming through, and yeah, that will be awesome.
Now with my palette, if I'm not going to use it for the next couple of days, just do a little soap and water.
Yeah, just scrape it with your knife. I'll
Okay.
just scrape it with your knife. Is it plastic? Is it wood?
Yes, it's plastic.
Oh, okay. You can just scrape it as much as you can. Eventually, when it dries, you can peel it. Because it's plastic. This is plastic paint, so you can just take a corner and just peel it and have it's like an acrylic peel. Yeah.
One of the things I think, I'm not using enough paint.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't think, because I kept adding, because I kept running out. But I
Yeah.
have a feeling I didn't use a thick enough paint, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. And if we wanna, paint on a budget, probably just a smaller size, because I guess the bigger size, the more paint.
Right.
But if you wanna save it, really, absolutely try to seal it as much as you can. Again, there is a medium, slow drying medium. You can just dab a few drops on it, and it will slow dry it. But
All right. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank
Did a-
you, everyone.
Thank
We
you. You did an awesome job. See you next week. We'll paint a forest.